Hello and welcome to our show, episode 1. My name is Sam Chapter and I'm joined by
Elspeth Hind,
Jim Chapman,
Liam McLeod,
and we're going to talk about movies. Movies that we've seen, movies that we haven't seen, movies that are yet to come out,
etc.
Any other type of movies. I saw a movie this week.
What did you see, Sam?
I saw The Handmaiden.
The Handmaiden.
I
I
saw
saw it with you.
Handmaiden. Yes. Did you really?
Yeah, I was there.
Oh, that's good to know.
Next to you. That was nice.
Wow. Yeah, Handmaiden. New Park Chan-wook movie.
It's good, that, wasn't it?
I love Park Chan-wook.
Yeah.
He's fucking brilliant.
He is good.
And I think since, Old Boy, his movies have gotten better. And I think...
Really?
I think so. I think...
Stoker.
I
enjoyed
love Stoker.
I did enjoy Stoker
Stoker's
as well.
brilliant. I think Stoker... I said this to Jim after we saw it. I thought Stoker is his version of A History of Violence. A History of Violence is David Cronenberg's, the sign that he's sort of maturing as a filmmaker.
It was a
and I think that's...
divergence from
Yeah,
what he's
yeah.
done before.
And I think Stoker, and also, Thirst as well, is Park Chan-wook sort of maturing. He's less with the sort of in-your-face, gratuitous nastiness of his, the shock value of his Vengeance trilogy. And now he's made an absolutely beautiful movie in The Handmaiden.
It's true, because there was almost nothing hideous about The Handmaiden, really. I mean, if you can get on board with the graphic sex, there was that one scene, but then,
yes,
So-
really...
What's The Handmaiden about for those who haven't seen it?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, obviously, yeah. Okay, so The Handmaiden is... all right, well, it's based on a novel by Sarah Waters, Fingersmith, about a handmaiden working for a Japanese lady in Japan-occupied Korea. I can't really say much more than that. I suppose
That's true. I mean, I knew literally nothing going into the film. I hadn't seen a trailer. I hadn't really read a review in full. I knew almost nothing about the film, and
I suppose from the outset you know that she's not who she says she is, and that she has been planted there to suggest to the woman that she's waiting on that she should, to enable her to fall in love with this man who's trying to con her out of her money.
Yeah, she's one part of a con job. And
Yeah.
I think that's established early enough that it's not the
that's
kind
not
of thing
a spoiler. I wouldn't
No.
say no.
So the original book is a Victoriana erotic lesbian novel.
Yes, set in Victorian England as
Yeah.
well.
Wow.
Nothing to do with
So it
Japan
was
or
quite
Korea.
a transfer, I thought. A really interesting way of looking at that culture and moving something that's so similar to somewhere that's so completely different.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and it's I haven't read the original novel, and I've not seen. They did a BBC adaptation in the noughties, which I've not seen, but I couldn't really it. I guess it must gain so much from being set where it's set. The tension between Japan and Korea at the time adds so much to the story.
Absolutely. You could feel that. You could feel that historical weight to it.
Yeah, and there's also, they talk in both Japanese and Korean, and the sort of the subtitles are coloured differently, so it's important what language they're speaking at
Not to
different
mention
times.
just the setting and the locale was just absolutely gorgeous. Yeah. It was so beautifully realised on screen. The cinematography, I think, is probably my favourite part of that film. It really... I did think it was quite spectacular to look at.
It really was.
Yeah.
So I loved the film. I saw it at the Bath Film Festival last year and I thought it was brilliant. But I've heard it argued that it's too beautiful, that there's a male gaze aspect on the lesbian scenes that's completely unrealistic, and it makes it look somehow, it becomes a male fantasy rather than an exciting story about these two women.
That's undoubtedly the case. I think that might just be inevitable when you have any film about female sexuality directed by a male director.
I disagree with that. I think that if it's possible for a female director to do it, why is it not possible for a male director to do it?
Okay.
I suppose through the male gaze is something that is inevitably going to come through.
Yeah.
I think in the case of this movie, I think the sex scenes were the least visually, like, least beautifully shot aspects of it. There was like real close-ups, and there was sort of the sound effects, and it was almost quite oppressive in a way.
It was almost like bordering uncomfortable, I think.
Yeah.
Like
it wasn't...
They lasted very long, and they lasted a long time, is what I mean. And yeah, you're right about the close-ups. It was very...
It is... Like, I think the first big sex scene you get between the two is very much about intensity and excess. One thing I do really want to say, because we touched on the male gaze, like when I say it's inevitable, I mean it's inevitable for heterosexual male directors. They can. I know.
Sorry, I'm pulling a face at you. I just
this is an
disagree.
audio medium.
I'm pulling a face at Liam because I massively disagree with what you're saying, but go on.
Well, I have yet to see like a heterosexual male director capture female sexuality in a way that is not objectification.
I understand what you mean, but I disagree in theory is the thing.
Yeah, I'm sure it's possible.
Yeah.
One thing, because we talked about Stoker. Part of my problem with that is a male director trying to capture a woman's sexual awakening, and I don't think it works there. And
I think it definitely can work. I think it really did work for me in Stoker, actually. That's one thing I really loved about Stoker.
I would agree as well.
It put me in this mindset that naturally I fundamentally would struggle to understand. And I really, really... I'd say that's what that film did for me. It made me feel something I wasn't expecting to feel at all.
Because what we should probably say is that the sexual awakening in Stoker is not a conventional sexual awakening.
No. This is a Park Chan-wook film.
Well, of course,
going to be conventional.
No. Yes, so it's I won't say more than that because Stoker is an absolutely astonishing movie, which I think everyone should see.
Find it if you haven't.
But yeah, the Handmaiden is one, and I didn't want to so much talk about the sex because because people have described The Handmaiden as an erotic thriller, and I don't think that would be an apt description.
I disagree with that label.
Yeah, it's like erotic sort of conjures up connotations about the story, like a bunch of sex scenes being supported by a story, whereas this is a story with sex scenes in it, and there's not that much of it, and it's not central to the thing.
I'd say it's a romantic thriller.
Yeah,
I could see that much more so than an erotic film.
Yeah,
see, I'd say it was more cultural. To me, the interesting thing about it was the time and the place and the people and the way that they were coping with the situation that they shouldn't have been coping with, and it's the whole multifaceted, multi-layered thing about a time and a place that I had no knowledge of.
Same. Yeah,
definitely. It was really educational and just fascinating.
It was just like the power play and the dynamics and the class systems that are established, and sort of the relationships between the relationships therein.
Yeah,
really, just that's what kind of grabbed me, because again, it was like sort of similar, like what we were talking about, the sexual awakening of this young girl in Stoker. It's something that I, just wouldn't know. And that's what I found with all of Park Chan-wook's, well, all three of them that I've seen. Old Boy is the other one. They've introduced me to something that is somewhat alien to me, and so that's what I appreciate his films for. Yeah. And they're never comfortable to watch, I find.
I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
And it was also interesting to see sort of an alternative perspective on patriarchy.
Absolutely.
And how that sort of it's sort of something that is obviously present around the world at that time. And today.
I was going to say, don't say at that
time. but it's interesting to see that when they move it from Victorian England, you expect that to be a factor. When you move it to Japanese occupied Korea, it's something that continues as well. So it's
absolutely.
I mean, that's just an example of what you were talking about.
Yeah, and I think if anything, the fact that it was taken from this Victoriana novel just made me connect with it more, because I don't not that I was ever a Victorian housewife or whatever, but I kind
Really?
of...
Weren't you?
I know, surprising.
Shocking, isn't it?
Surprising. But I can kind of understand that class system, and I can understand that dynamic. And for them to take something that is familiar to me and place it in this other setting meant I had a much easier way into it.
Makes it so much more resonant.
Exactly,
really.
and relatable and human, I think.
I found that, and I'm a white guy, so
Yeah.
yeah. Like, well done, Pacham.
Yeah. Sort of the great way that this film relates to the patriarchy is it puts you completely in the position of these two women who are very much overshadowed by the patriarchy and controlled by the patriarchy, and it's their journey of completely undermining it.
Yeah, but you feel the powerlessness of the situation that they're in.
Yeah.
And the nastiness of it as well. There's a real, like... I know you have to expect that from this director, but there's a real underlying horribleness to the whole film. Which
That's
is,
true, and it was much more about subtext, whereas in films like Old Boy, it was quite clearly... Yes, it was just there.
Yes,
Because I was watching that, was sort of like, ooh, this is horrible. Whereas with The Handmaiden, it's more sort of like, this is horrible, but I need to think about why it's horrible.
It's very much under the surface stuff. Like there's a scene very early on involving a snake that just that alone made me very uncomfortable.
Yeah, and there's also some very uncomfortable visual imagery later on,
especially towards the end,
with octopi and things like that. But
I mean, it's good to know just how far back that tradition in Japanese literature goes.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
I hadn't thought about that. Really.
It was purely because of like censorship laws at the time, but yeah.
So this week I haven't been to the cinema because of my shitty eyesight, but I did manage to see Green Room on Netflix for the first time, which was amazing. I mean, it's such a good movie.
Again, can we avoid spoilers? Because I have not seen Green Room yet.
okay.
Yes.
I have seen Blue
So
Ruin.
let me try and not spoil it for you. It is about a group of early 20-something Americans who are a punk band, not getting paid very much. They turn up at a gig that gets cancelled and end up going to the back end of the deep South America to this isolated club in the middle of nowhere and playing a show. And they end up seeing something they shouldn't have seen, and it all goes horribly, nastily wrong.
Nastily wrong.
Yeah, like that. It's got... I'm trying to remember the cast now. I always want to call him Anton Chekhov, but it's Anton Yelchin.
Yelchin,
Who played Chekhov.
Yeah. Late great Anton
Oh,
Yelchin.
he's just so wonderful. And it just made me...
I think that's why I put it off, because I know that it's his last film, and I really feel like I'm going to struggle to watch it, especially because it's so horrible from what I've heard.
Yeah, it's not a pleasant film.
No, of course.
So it's him and Elias Shawkat from Arrested Development, and a couple of other people I didn't
Imogen Poots as well?
Imogen
But
Poots.
she's not in the band, she's at the gig.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So those guys are in the band, then Imogen Poots is at the gig, and
Patrick Stewart.
Stewart has a Nazi side to him that we've never seen before, so that was...
I don't think Patrick Stewart does. I think he can play
Patrick
a Nazi.
Stewart played Nazi, there we go.
I mean,
And it was,
it shouldn't be surprising that Patrick Stewart can play a Nazi, because he's an absolutely incredible actor, but he's just this grandfatherly figure. It's shocking to see him like that.
Yeah.
But obviously he completely owns
Exactly.
it.
It was one of those things where it's like, oh, you're my granddad. Oh no, wait, you're someone else now.
You're my granddad at Christmas.
I have to adapt to this.
Yeah.
But he was wonderful. It was really brilliant. But the like you said, it's directed by the guy that did Blue Ruin, whose name escapes me.
Jeremy Saulnier.
There we go. And I saw Blue Ruin several years ago at the cinema, not knowing anything about it, and was gripped the whole of the way through, and kind of hoped for the kind of steady burn, for want of a better word, that Blue Ruin was, and it doesn't quite have that. It's got moments of very, very tense horribleness, but it doesn't have that same build-up, I don't think.
Yeah, because Blue Ruin was very much a slow burn. Like I would say, I watched it a couple of years ago, like as soon as it came on Netflix, and I knew literally nothing about it. And yeah, it took me completely by surprise. It was great, and it was who was it from? It was Buzz from Home Alone is in it as well.
Yes. Actually, yeah. Kevin McAllister's older brother. I don't remember his name either. He's done probably not very much, but
yeah. Is he still working?
I do know
he
it's
is.
Devon Rattray. Is his name. I remember looking that up.
I'll take your name for it.
Yes,
I'll take your word for it.
Yes.
But yeah, I think Blue Ruin is a better film than Green Room.
Yeah.
But Green Room is a really good movie. It just, unfortunately, does kind of lose its pacing a bit in the last half hour, maybe.
You see, for me, it was more the start. It felt like a jumpy start, and then it got better. It got closer to what I was expecting, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's definitely worth a watch. It's horrible. Definitely worth a watch.
Oh, God, yeah. It's...
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
And it's kind of emblematic of the current political landscape as well, when it's
Yeah.
like, oh, suddenly you're surrounded by Nazis.
Yeah, and there's a wonderful sequence when they're playing at this Nazi club where they're kind of joshing each other into poking fun at them. You're surrounded by skinheads.
Yes.
Is this the best thing to do? But I think that's very much the climate at the moment, and it's a really
it's this thing of we've spent so long just like making fun of the Nazis because we assumed we had taken away all power that they had, and it turns out there is just still this really nasty undercurrent in our society. And they really are everywhere.
And that is something that I think films are starting to tap into as well. Like Daniel Radcliffe just did one, Imperium.
Yeah.
Did his neo-Nazi movie.
Did you see the comments when the trailer went live for that one?
No.
Oh, it was a lot of people saying, "Oh, I'll take things that didn't happen for 10 points," and it's like, just typical internet stuff.
Internet stuff.
Yeah, I really do feel like comment boards are just for assholes now.
Oh yeah. When was that never not the case?
I used to leave comments on stuff.
But it's not just that, because it feels as though politicians are becoming comment boards. So, like the spokesperson for the White House,
Sean Spicer.
Yes, when he was comparing Syria to the Holocaust, you're like, you've just lost the argument. In any stretch of that, you've lost the argument.
Ugh. Anyway, Green Room.
Yes, so go out and watch it.
Yeah, cool.
On Netflix, it's good.
Or I've got it on Blu-ray. You can borrow it off me.
There you
Audience.
If they know me.
No, it is on Netflix. What else is also on Netflix, you ask? A film that I
Very silently.
just watched. Yes, very silently. A movie that I just watched, which was brand new to Netflix, came out the first of the month, I believe, called Win It All, starring Jake Johnson, beloved on this TV show New Girl by me. And
I also have a certain affinity for Jake
I
Johnson.
was going to say,
He's
you don't
great, man.
own all of Jake Johnson.
I know, but like, I hardly
We can
ever come
love
across
him
people
too.
who love him. It's all about Schmidt on that show, or Zoe Deschanel. Nah.
No.
Jake Johnson, man, he's excellent. Yes, Win It All. Yes, it's directed by Joe Swanberg, who is a long-time collaborator with Jake Johnson. They are known for their mumblecore movies. So the idea is they've done this a few times. Well, Joe Swanberg has done this a few times with Jake Johnson in Drinking Buddies and Digging for Fire, and he's also done Anna Kendrick in Happy Christmas, I believe it was called, or something like that.
It's a memorable title.
Yes. But yeah, so the idea is they meticulously plan out everything going. I say meticulously. They roughly plan out everything that happens in the film. They come up with an outline, but then scene by scene they decide on the objectives of each scene, and there is no script. It's entirely improvised. All of these actors deliver the dialogue as they would, basically, and to varying degrees of success. So Drinking Buddies is on Netflix with Jake Johnson and Olivia Wilde and Ron Livingston and Anna Kendrick, and it's absolutely fantastic. That was like that concept at its peak, really.
So that's the same thing they did with Curb Your Enthusiasm, isn't it?
I believe so, yeah, which I never saw Curb Your Enthusiasm, actually.
It was unscripted, but they just sort of said, this is what's going to happen in the
Yes.
scene, and then because it's a team of fantastically funny comedians,
Yes.
the most awful cringe comedies emerged, and a generation of comedy was born.
Exactly. And this is it's the same basic concept, except it's obviously with feature films and Drinking Buddies, it really, really works. And they also did Digging for Fire, which worked less so. That was much more muddled and confusing, and just much less focus. But this new one, Win It All, is the first film they've done that, from what I gather, actually had a script. So it's their most conventional and probably most accessible film that they've done together. And it really blew me away. It was absolutely fantastic. It focuses on Jake Johnson, who plays Eddie, who is a gambling addict, and he works like I can't remember what he does. I think he's like a construction worker or something. And then at night he gambles away everything that he has, and it's a sort of a crippling addiction, and he's trying to get help with it. But the crux of the story is that an old friend of his, who's sort of a gangster, is going to prison, and he leaves him a bag full of cash, along with what looks like tools which have been used to commit a murder. So there's like a hammer and things like that. It's a very humorous scene where he agrees not to open the bag, and then as soon as he's gone, he opens the bag and finds all that cash, and just like, oh, it just starts frowning more and more as he takes everything out. And of course, the first thing he does is piss all of that away in gambling. Goes on a hot streak and then loses it. And he realises that he desperately needs help, and so he basically starts working for his brother and putting his life back together. He begins a serious relationship with a woman with a child, and basically starts repairing everything. And then his gangster friend is released from prison early, and Jake Johnson knows that he needs to win all that money back, otherwise he's going to die. And that seems like a very high drama concept kind of thing. It's really those mumblecore roots really come through, and it's incredibly naturalistic, and there's something warm and fuzzy about it that I think all of their sort of movies have. I mean, I think that's something that Jake Johnson brings to everything. He's just so inherently charming and likable, and he's the ultimate everyman, I believe. And and it's really interesting. It works simultaneously as a throwback to sort of 70s gangster capers like The Best of James Caan and things like that, and while also being a contemporary sort of dramedy, really. And it's very nice. It's very indie, not so much quirky, just it's they're sort of rambling films that they do, and they're an acquired taste, I think, in that they seem quite unfocused. It's sort of things happening. It's very much sort of like slice of life kind of movies, and they're very warm, and they get the best sort of performers for it, and they're very funny.
So with this mumblecore, John, where you said they're shooting without a script, they're not necessarily aiming for comedy.
Not necessarily. It just so happens that they work with people who are naturally very funny. Like in Drinking Buddies, there are times where it's never like laugh out loud, like side-splitting hilarious, but it's gently humorous, and you're watching. It feels like you're watching friends have a conversation and then go through relationship drama, and it's incredibly naturalistic, and all of that awkwardness and all the long drawn out silences that happens in real life conversation, they're all captured perfectly. And especially in the case of Drinking Buddies, because they were actually drinking and they were drunk for half the scenes, and it's really interesting. It's like, check it out if it sounds like your kind of thing. Drinking Buddies and Win It All are both on Netflix, but they're not for everyone. But I find them very nice, very nice.
Excellent.
Cool. So shall we move on, I guess?
Yeah, sure. The only sort of new film I've been able to see at the cinema in the last couple of weeks has been Ghost in the Shell.
Ghost in the Shell?
Yeah.
How was that?
It was bad. I knew I was in for a bad time when I was seeing the credits roll and Aaron Kruger's name came up under script.
Oh, Aaron Kruger, was that Scream 3?
No,
Scream 3, didn't he?
Possibly,
I think.
But yeah, he also did like the Transformers films.
Yeah.
Oh. Wow.
But I mean, the good news is that it doesn't stop at like the script or the cast. Like every level of this film is bad.
That's the good news.
Well, good news for Aaron Kruger, because no one person can really take the blame for how bad of a movie this turned out to be.
What's the bad news, Liam?
The bad news is it's in the dialogue and the editing and the set dressing. I remember watching one scene where it's the main villain and Juliette Binoche talking in this office, and right next to them there is a cabinet with like some sort of robot-y stuff, and it's like conceivable, a future roboticist would have that in their office, but it's right in front of one of those like floor-to-ceiling windows that all buildings in the future will inevitably have, and
because the movies tell us they will.
Yeah,
exactly.
And it kept bugging me that who would put a cabinet there, because you're creating an incredibly narrow space between the cabinet and the window to walk around, and at the same time it's blocking out a lot of the light from your big ass windows, and then the scene starts getting shot from a low angle, so it's blocking out even more light. And this is in an important scene. Like, there is big exposition-y stuff going on here, and all I can think about is this cabinet. Because that's how bad this film is. The placement of the furniture in the rooms is bad. I should probably take a couple of steps back and talk about the plot.
Okay, yeah. Tell us more about Ghost in the... What's it based on?
Okay, so this is based on sort of the famous Japanese manga, which I have only just read, so I can't remember the guy's name, but it was turned into a animated film in the early, I think, late 80s. 96?
96.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I like Ghost in the Shell. It's pretty good. The original.
Yeah, and the original has become this sort of seminal film when it comes to, depicting the future and transhumanism and issues of identity. And
anime for people who don't like anime.
It really is.
People say Ghost in the Shell, Akira, and the Ghibli movies.
And it's been ripped off everywhere.
Oh god, yeah. Like, this has influenced everything from like Transmetropolitan, Blade Runner,
Matrix. Obviously, Inception to an extent, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm. But and the thing is, while so let's go back to the plot before I get on to something else.
Tell us more about why it's bad.
Yeah. So it opens with Scarlett Johansson playing Mira, because for some reason they've changed the name. Mm-hmm. Who wakes up and basically finds out that her body has been destroyed in a terrorist incident, and so what's left of her grey matter has been put into this state-of-the-art robot body that they want to put into Section 9, which is sort of this elite anti-terrorism unit, and that would be her role from here on in. And from the moment like her brain is put into the body, the film jumps a year. So she somehow goes from being a civilian to the rank of major in a year.
All right,
possibly doable. I don't know. But yeah, and that basically becomes her entire life. She's the major of Section 9, an elite anti-terrorism unit, who start to find themselves targeted by this like entirely new hacker called Kuze. And as they investigate it quickly emerges that Kuze has a connection to the Major and her previous life before she was roboticized by Juliette Binoche.
Okay.
Right.
And yeah.
And you say it's just, the set design is bad. Because, I mean, looking at the trailers, it looks like they were aiming for Blade Runner and ended up with Ultraviolet.
Blade
Beyond
Runner,
Flux.
Blade Runner, this is not. They clearly have put a lot of work into the visuals when it's come to like the design of the Major and her camouflage suit, the way sort of vehicles move around and the various like augmentations people have. You get like the geisha bots that can like in a snap of the fingers move like a crab across the walls.
And how do they look then? Like, how are the visuals then?
The
best thing in the film.
I would say that they're definitely incredibly well put together. They do the best to not make anything look like just like a CGI creation. But the overwhelming feeling I got was that it was just taking token iconography from the manga and the film and inserting it into wherever it would conceivably fit into this plot, or just add decoration. And that's kind of one of the problems with the visuals. This doesn't feel like a living, breathing city as you would get in something like Blade Runner or Akira. It feels more like a theme park than anything, and it sort of reinforces the emptiness that takes place in individual scenes, and more than anything, this film will bring you a sense of emptiness.
But not in a good sort of nihilistic way, in a just sort of there's nothing here.
No, this isn't like Lone Wolf and Kid, it's not like supposed to make you feel emptiness. It's just it's clearly trying to create some visceral experience with the action, but it just can't pull it off. There's very little about this film that feels ironically human.
So it's kind of like a ghost then. It's kind of shell-like.
Yeah, it is.
Get off the stage!
So, someone once told me that it doesn't matter how much you hate a film, there will be at least one person out there in the world that will really like it. If you had to guess who this person would be for Ghost in the Shell, would you care to try and guess who that might be?
Are you saying it's you?
No, I've never seen it. I don't think I want to, from the sounds of it.
I'm sure there are people who are really going to love it. I know a bunch of people who have tried like hell to defend the casting of Scarlett Johansson. I mean, like,
because there's a big cultural appropriation
discussion
surrounding the movie, isn't there?
I would say, as much as I don't really have a particular like dog in that fight, it would have been nice. It would have been nice to see a talented Japanese actress sort of raised to prominence.
It's a wasted opportunity, really. Like,
considering the fact that, like, even Scarlett Johansson, who's opened little movies pretty big, even she couldn't stop this from bombing. It says a great deal.
It's a potentially star-making turn, and it's just, I felt like I as someone who has never seen the film, I haven't even seen the original or read the manga. It just feels like that was an opportunity for Hollywood to. That was just too good of an opportunity to pass up for diversity.
Yeah. The thing is, no Japanese actress could have saved this film. I don't know if it would necessarily like killed their career being in something this atrocious.
We've at least gotten their name out there.
Yeah.
I suppose.
I suppose Scarlett Johansson was cast because she's good at being
robot-y?
Yeah. I mean, like I'm sort of just thinking of Under the Skin, which is a fantastic movie.
Yeah,
and Scarlett Johansson is excellent in it, playing someone who's looks human for a minute, but then you notice how she's staring at something with a look of slight confusion but distance. And she's good at that.
Part of the whole thing about Under the Skin is just how uncanny she looks in that, because she has all of the all of the qualities of a realistic human being, but to a certain extent, she I think I attribute her as looking a lot like a doll.
Yeah.
That's
Am
true.
I right in thinking that she was the voice in Her as well?
She was.
Yeah.
Where
Yes.
it's kind of flipped the other way, so she's a computer with these humanistic...
Yes.
I suppose that's her gig now. Then I suppose. I
She
mean, I
is
suppose
a robot.
Lucy. Lucy was similar as well. She sort of becomes more
Yeah.
robot-like as the film goes on. More distant from humanity.
It would
Black
be
Widow
robot-like.
basically has no emotion, as she's introduced.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's true, but that's because it's a bad film.
Well, I'm that too.
No, well,
Which one?
Well, I thought you were talking about Lucy still. Sorry.
No, I was saying Black Widow.
Oh, well, yeah.
Black Widow.
Yeah.
She's,
Lucy.
I mean, at least until the Hulk thing, then, she's just a killing machine. That's what she is. Mm-hmm. Really. She's good at playing an ass kicker. And that's
Definitely.
pretty much what she does.
She's not without personality in those films, though.
She's not without personality in those films, but if you think back to Iron Man 2, what's her character there?
Whatever the individual Marvel film demands.
I really only
true.
remember Whiplash from that movie. And he was in that one, or was he in the third?
Yeah,
He was in that
That's
one,
literally
yeah.
all I remember is him
Wow.
walking.
Nicky Rourke.
Yes.
I suppose she didn't. So I guess she didn't have much of a personality until Joss Whedon came and breathed life into her.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
very true.
Black Widow.
He
Yeah.
really did make her an essential part of the Avengers.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
she was Black Widow was also great in The Winter Soldier as well.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see the reveal where she's actually a robot at the end of Rough Night.
Yeah. Is that the one where they kill a stripper?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that one.
Yeah, that sounds like a
Very bad thing.
wonderful movie, doesn't it?
Gender swaps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it looks like it could work.
Yeah. Sure.
Full of talented, funny
There's
actresses.
kind of an uproar though about it. Did you see some of the
Why?
backlash
It's sort of
amongst the sex worker community? Apparently.
yeah, it's sort of casual. It's I suppose it's the casualization of violence towards sex workers is what I've seen.
yeah.
That's true. I understand that, but this isn't a new thing. Literally, this is
Just
what-
because it's not a new
so
thing
many
doesn't mean they should carry on.
Just
I
because
mean,
it's
No,
not
of
a new
course.
thing.
No, of course. It just I literally haven't seen any kind of backlash towards any of those previous films.
you're not on
Just
Twitter,
this
though, are
one.
you?
No, that's true. Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, all right then. How often do you see people chat shit about very bad things starring Daniel Stern?
Oh, that's
That movie came
ages
out in
though,
what, the
although.
80s?
98.
98?
I think.
Well,
Yeah.
pre-internet anyway, essentially.
when
well, pre-modern internet anyway.
Because it is the same plot though. That's hilarious. Yeah, it is the exact same plot.
In the same way that Matilda's the same plot as Carrie, or
Oh my god.
or the
Blown my
No, I mean,
mind.
it's the same.
the Inspector
approach.
Gadget is the same plot as RoboCop. Anyway,
I
Ghost
mean-
in the Shell is obviously not interesting enough that we can stay on track when talking about it.
Yeah, definitely not. Yeah, that's it. It's just a big film of nothing.
It's a shell.
We've
Oh,
we've
we've
covered
done that joke.
Jesus.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Ah.
This isn't like an American stand-up routine. Repetition is not the key to this.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Well, on this show, each week, each episode, we're going to be having a theme where we talk about a movie that is relevant to the topic of the week. And this week's topic is our favourite movie from the year in which we were born.
Yeah.
So, shall I go first?
You go first.
I think we should go youngest to oldest or oldest to youngest.
In which case
Let's
I
do
will
them in
not go
chronological order.
first. Okay, so,
We go youngest to oldest.
yes.
We can't do chronological because then I need to fire back up again.
all right. We'll give you some time. Okay, so I'm the young buck here since 1996. So there was loads that I could go on with. Honestly, this was hard. One thing, I almost went with Fargo. Coen Brothers, I think, is their best movie. Almost went with From Dusk Till Dawn, possibly Tarantino's best movie. Yeah, or Scream, which would have annoyed Sam to no end.
Jumanji.
Jumanji! Oh, was that in 1996?
I think so.
Oh, fuck,
I don't know.
Trainspotting. No, Trainspotting, yes. Yes, I went with Trainspotting. Danny Boyle's, not his first film, was it? That was Shallow
No,
Grave.
yeah.
Shallow Grave.
Second?
I think he might have done something else beforehand as well.
Sophomore feature.
Anyway.
Yes, Trainspotting. Yeah, I mean, everyone knows it. Everyone knows Trainspotting. It's a classic.
It's the
it's a modern
definitive
classic.
British movie of the 90s, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And for good reason. I rewatched it. I watched it last night in preparation for this, and yeah, I was struck by how well it actually holds up, despite being so aggressively 90s as a film. It's a fascinating cultural artifact. I think what really struck me about it was that, you know, this is a film about 20-something heroin addicts living in Edinburgh. I can't think of a more marginal group of protagonists in any culture, and yet I think I was struck by how sort of universal its themes are, and how, because like, yes, it's about heroin addiction, and yes, it's harrowing, and it's difficult in its depiction of these sort of horrors, but it's ultimately a film about a generation. It spoke to a generation for that reason, because it's about that stage in your life after you finish your education and you're going out into the world. And I mean, like, less so with like Robert Carlyle, Ewan McGregor very much so. You know, they're just people who are lost, and they are never caricatures. They are. What's interesting about the approach is that it takes something as heavy as addiction and makes it. The film itself is just so funny. It's I think one of the funniest films I've ever seen, and it features a baby dying of neglect. Like, that's just so impressive, I think, on Danny Boyle's part, that he was able to make it so profound and difficult and hard hitting and brutal. It's really brutal. It's an ugly film.
Yeah.
While also making it so fun. It's so upbeat, and just it's something that really, I shouldn't be able to watch it that much. It should be something that I watch it and just be like, I can't for another few years now. But like, literally, I often find myself wanting to watch Trainspotting, because it's just the way it was done. The soundtrack is fucking euphoric, and just the performances are all fantastic. It's just there's really very little that I think could change about it. I think 1996, like, there are a lot of great movies, and yet Trainspotting is the one that I went with, because it's so singular to its time, while also being so applicable and relevant today.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's, you know, I've not watched it from start to finish for a number of years, but the characters are what really stick in my mind. I still know Begbie and Tommy and Spud and
Sick Boy.
Yeah, they're all excellent, like, really well-rounded characters.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's
very much so well performed as well.
Yeah.
Like, Robert Carlyle's Begbie is really terrifying. He's fantastic, and like, obviously he's sort of cited as, like, you know, one of the greatest. Well, maybe not one of the greatest, but like, as a cinematic villain kind of thing. I really don't see him as that. Like, he's not. He's one of them. He's their friend, and he's like that this Napoleonic dictatorial sort of bar crawler who is ready to fight anyone. And I find it interesting, even as a character such as, you know, as disgusting and awful as him is so, I mean, first of all funny, but also, like, it feels like we have friends like that. We have had friends like that in our lives that we feel we need to apologise for, things like that. We've had friends like Sick Boy, who, you know, sort of the charming, charismatic con man who can go on these long, poetic monologues or diatribes about Bond and Sean Connery.
But we'll fuck you over at a moment's notice.
Fuck you over, and, you know, and yeah, there's just something about it, you know.
Yeah,
it's got that Boyle kid, who's 30 years my senior. He's on something.
Oh yeah, he's going places.
He's going places.
You mark my words right here. That character's gonna go. He's gonna go far. I tell you.
I'm amazed that you say that you can watch it over and over again. I watched it once as a teenager, and I've got absolutely no desire to watch it again.
Really?
I'm not saying it wasn't. It was magnificent, and there are sequences in it that literally haunt me.
Yeah.
But it's also one of the maybe 3 films I've ever seen in my life that's made me feel physically sick.
Exactly.
And I have no desire to feel that way, so I don't want to watch that again.
I totally understand that. Like, that's 100%. It's totally revolting. Like, the baby crawling on the ceiling. Painful.
Diving into a toilet.
Diving into the toilet.
Genuinely feeling a bit nauseous just thinking.
It's awful. It's absolutely disgusting. And yet, there's just something about it to me that is just so inherently charming and likeable. It's just like Danny Boyle was so fearless in the way he tackled that film, because it could so easily have just been a message movie. Could have felt like a PSA, public service. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It could have just been so ham-fisted. And yet, he's not afraid to endear us to these characters at times, and then he's not afraid to show just how revolting they are. It all comes down to this idea of addiction and the fact that it's just this monster in that film. Like, Bedby's not the villain of that film. Like, it's absolutely awful, and yet so good and so watchable. So watchable, I find. I can't get sick of it.
And still relatable.
Still relatable. Yeah.
I mean, I think part of the appeal is it tries to make nihilism such a ride. Because I've read like a bunch of stuff on Trainspotting, and the big thing about the original novel is that it was like, it comes into the choose life thing. You know. This was a very real problem for young people in Edinburgh, but it was mostly because of disenfranchisement. They did not feel like they had a future. They were not choosing life; they were choosing death. And as long as it could just be this incredible experience that they could just keep going on and on and on until death finally caught up with them. That was all that mattered. And the reason why Trainspotting works so well is it captures that thrill ride. It tries really hard to not romanticize heroin addiction, but it really shows you why they are doing this.
That's the thing, exactly. It doesn't romanticize it in any sort of way. It shows it as this horrible thing, but it explains. Well, not so much explains. It shows and makes you feel why they make these choices, why they are so self-destructive.
Yeah, it depicts heroin as being fun until suddenly it's not,
exactly.
And all of a sudden it's really not a joke.
Yeah, all of a sudden your life is hell, and this is it, and it's your fault. And that's what's ultimately so powerful about the film for me, is that it's like you said, incredibly nihilistic, and yet and hopeful. Honestly, hopeful. By the end of the film, like he gets out through like the most nefarious of ways by completely fucking everyone over. But he gets out, and you root for him, and it's just.
And that's what he has to do in order to get out. He has to drop those people so hard that he could never possibly go back to them.
And then, did you see the sequel?
I did see the sequel, and
you didn't like it?
I really didn't.
I loved it. I loved it. I loved it so much.
I didn't hate it. I just struggled to see like what its function was.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like a film that is entirely about its own irrelevance.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well said. I disagree completely. That's cool. But I guess I see what you mean. But to me, it was very much about, again, like in the same way that Trainspotting was very much about a certain particular time in your life, and was the themes therein were relevant and applicable to anybody who watching that film. I found Trainspotting 2 was as well. It was about these characters approaching middle age, and it was about how they've changed, and how, probably more pressingly, they absolutely haven't. Sick Boy is the same fucking guy that he was, and he is so. All of these characters are so like depressed. They're in such bad places. They are shambles of people.
Yeah,
because they just haven't really changed. Even Renton, who. And that's why I find it so much sadder, because he has changed. He broke out of it, and like he's different now, and he comes back because he has There's nothing else.
Yeah.
it's really bleak.
Well, yeah, one of the things that bugged me about the film was, and I see why they did it, just how easy it was for Renton to leave his new life behind, to just like turn away from it at the drop of a hat and go on this stupid scheme with someone who's never been able to pull anything together.
Yeah.
That felt like it was a real contrivance to me.
Yeah, I see what you mean. That really didn't bug me as much as I just really enjoyed the ride. It wasn't nearly as downbeat as the first one.
Yeah.
But well, I mean, it wasn't as difficult to watch as the first one. There was nothing in T2 that made me...
Oh, don't call it
T2.
T2.
There's only
one T2.
I know there's only one
There were
T2.
two
Hey,
reasons.
you say in all the marketing, that's what the film is called.
Epic marketing fail is what it is.
T2 Train Spotting is what the film is called.
There are two reasons I didn't watch the second Trainspotting film. The first one is because they dared to call it T2. There will only ever be one T2.
Yeah.
And the second reason is it didn't seem plausible to me that people that were living like that would still be alive so far in the future. Like, that seemed... I'm very willing to suspend my disbelief, but it has a limit, especially when you're asking it to be realistic.
And be in such great shape.
Well, exactly. I couldn't believe there was no...
Hey, Spud isn't, and Spud is the only one who is still an addict.
Okay, fine. Yeah.
Point.
Begbie's thing is he's not in as great shape as he used to be.
Well, I don't know. I didn't see Trainspotting 2.
Okay.
But, well, yeah, maybe when it comes out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yes. Move on.
I'm sure that my choice is not going to spark as such intense debate. I was born in 1989. There were fucking really not very many movies I could choose from.
List some.
Batman is I don't think has held up. I've never really liked it. Tim Burton's Batman, the original. No,
I think us four are probably in the minority there.
Probably. I think there are some people who love Batman, but The Little Mermaid. You know, some people say it kickstarts the new Disney Renaissance, but I don't. I just
Elspeth
have
is
never
holding
found
my heart.
myself endeared to the Little Mermaid.
I love The Little Mermaid
charming.
so much. I know all of the words to the whole film. I don't even have to watch it. I could just start at the beginning. I could talk the whole way through it.
The music is great, but it's...
haven't seen it.
Wow.
Oh my god, you need to fix that immediately.
One of the only Disney movies I haven't seen.
That's your homework.
Is it?
Yeah, no, it really is.
Yeah. Carry on.
Yeah, there's a Bond movie, a Star Trek movie, and Indiana Jones all came out in 1989. Not particularly good ones in any case. Well, actually, no. Last Crusade was really good, but I've never really enjoyed... I've never been that... Like, you know, Indiana Jones has never spoken to me that much, really.
Okay.
Last Crusade is my favourite Indiana Jones film.
Mine too, but Indiana Jones has never been a franchise that, you know, you see them once, and I think I've only ever seen them once, all the way through, you know, catch bits when they're on TV. But, you know, License to Kill might be my favourite Bond movie, but it's, you know, still not that good.
Yeah.
But I went with Society.
Right.
Directed by Brian Yuzna, who directed Reanimator. It's a it's a body horror starring no one you've ever heard of.
Why did I think it was Cronenberg?
Because it's a body horror and it's quite a good one.
Okay.
And if it's a good body horror movie, it's probably going to be Cronenberg, but in this case, it's not.
Okay. Do they have anyone from Reanimator?
No, unfortunately, no Jeffrey Combs.
No. I have actually heard of Jeffrey Combs.
Yeah, but he's not in it. He's in Reanimator. But there's a guy called Billy Warlock who's in it, who was in Baywatch.
Billy Warlock?
Yes.
What a great porn name.
I know. He looks like the sort of guy who could do porn. You know,
and I bet he'd be great at it.
I'm sure he would.
Oh my god, he should so do wizard porn.
Wizard porn. I'm sure that's starring Billy Warlock.
Rule 34. But yeah, it's about a rich boy in a high school. You know, it's a very elite high school for kids whose parents are very rich and they're going places. He's going to get into top university, get a job at a law firm. He drives a really nice car.
Yeah.
Everyone he hangs out with is equally rich and vacuous.
Right.
They have these very high society parties. He feels he doesn't quite fit in, though. He's not had that much time. Yeah. But he thinks that he sort of slowly... a friend of his goes missing after he plays a recording of one of these parties where it seems they're having some horrific orgy of some kind, and the truth is far more terrifying, and it is quite a satire on high society and the wealth divide. I wouldn't say it's sophisticated enough to be called anti-capitalist or anything, but but it is really, it's quite well put together. I mean, it is a borderline straight-to-video horror movie, but that's my sort of thing. I really like this kind of horror movie, and as I mentioned earlier, it is a body horror movie as well. The finale is one of the most... It's not gory per se, but it's an uncomfortable watch. It is... if you've ever seen Slither, the final act of Slither, with a big pulsating pile of bodies all moulding into one. James Gunn got the inspiration from Society. Yeah. So there is a very, it is about the otherness of the rich people in society.
Sounds
Hence
awesome.
the name. It is really good, very watchable.
I haven't
schlocky. It is kind of a comedy as well. Coming from the people who made Reanimator, that is going to be the case. I would recommend it. Arrow Video did a really cool restoration of it on Blu-ray.
Cool. So you say you recommend it. Who are you recommending it to? Because I don't think, depending on who you are, don't rush out and see Society.
I'd say if you
might not be for you.
But yeah, okay, fine. If you're into 80s horror movies, body horror, horror that is satirical, but also you've got a strong stomach, then I'd recommend Society.
Right.
Otherwise, it's probably not going to be your thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to have to add this to the infinite to watch pile.
Right.
Here.
So, Liam,
Am I next?
you are. You were born in 88.
All right.
That shouldn't be
I
news.
can that's surprising.
Is that news to you?
I know the year that I was born, thankfully. Were you born before me?
87. I'm 30 this year.
Jesus.
I know. Looking good for it, though. I think you'll agree.
Yeah, very much, definitely. 1988 was the year that saw the release of Akira. I didn't mean to turn my section of the podcast into the anime section.
Well, it is now.
Yeah, the thing is, this was a really good year for anime in general because it saw the release of Akira, Grave of the Fireflies, and My Neighbor Totoro.
Wow.
Two really, probably some of the best of Ghibli's work, and that says a lot. This was also the year of Cinema Paradiso, and this actually kind of turned into a toss-up for me because Cinema Paradiso is probably the objectively better film, but Akira is one that leans towards my personal preferences.
Which is what this is about, so fair play.
Yeah.
And Akira is also probably more influential.
I would have to say, yeah. For some reason, Cinema Paradiso, it doesn't permeate the film school kid landscape as much as other things. Its big influence, I think, is the title that was used in Guest House Paradiso.
Yeah, that probably completely ruined the use of Paradiso in movies.
That's where its influence ended. But Akira, for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, Akira is set in future Tokyo, and by future it's 2019.
Well, it's Neo Tokyo, isn't it? Tokyo has been destroyed and rebuilt in the subsequent...
Yeah, this is Tokyo 31 years after a colossal disaster that is attributed to something that is only ever referred to as Akira. And in Neo Tokyo, young people are almost entirely destitute, and it's about these two kids who are members of a motorcycle gang, and during the course of one of their fights with a rival gang called the Clowns, one of the members, Tetsuo, who is established as this very sort of lesser lieutenant to the leader. He's physically weak. He can't handle like more faster going bikes, and because of this, he has like a lot of like impotent anger that is established early on. He's involved in a crash with this wizened child, who turns out to be an escapee from this experiment to basically recreate Akira and imbue children with those powers. And after this run-in, Tetsuo finds himself starting to develop the power of Akira, and he's immediately captured by the government. He's experimented on to try and develop his powers, and it's up to Canada, the cocksure leader of the motorcycle gang, and his best friend, to try and break him out. And just because of the power of Akira and the rage of Tetsuo, it's just something that he can't do, unfortunately. And so this is probably one of my favourite films of all time, and part of that is just so how well it communicates mood. Like, there is, I talked about how Ghost in the Shell tries to put like token imagery, and it just ends up being this empty experience. There's not a single frame in Akira that feels empty. Yeah. So much of it, true. Very true. So much of it is layered with, set dressing and just tone and energy and light. That, it's a living, breathing world. And it's got real emotions that are communicated in every single frame, and it's all about very crazy, intense things like basically coming of age, finding that your body is developing in ways that you can't control, finding that you still can't reconcile the traumas of childhood into this new person that you're becoming, and it's about systemic poverty and using the like working class and the poorest for experimentation.
Yep, governmental abuse.
And the creation of weapons of mass destruction that inevitably get turned on the very people that create them.
Yeah. Man's reach exceeding its grasp. It's a really astounding movie.
Yeah.
I wholly agree with that summation.
Very much.
It's
a film that's obviously very nearly been remade like a handful of times. Same with Ghost in the Shell. And it's one that I really, really hope doesn't get remade.
No, I mean, I've never been too much of an anime snob. I thought Ghost in the Shell, there was no reason why a live-action version of it had to suck. Akira is one of those fundamentally Japanese things, and a lot of it is.
Yeah.
It's not something that can just be, we'll just make it again, but in America. It's not, it is very much a product of its place and time.
It's something that requires a translation if you're going to do that. And
if they do that, they just make it about 9/11.
Exactly.
Yeah. And every American movie about something is about. Whereas, Japan has a huge, wealth of events like that to draw upon, which is why it means something so fundamentally different to Japanese people.
It has an entire history of, devastation by nuclear weapons, devastation by trying to harness nuclear power,
devastation by giant lizards.
Yep. It's constant problem in their history, giant lizards. Yeah. They should really get a giant monkey to sort that out.
Yeah, that would be good, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Not if Jordan Vogt Roberts is doing it.
You haven't even seen Kong Skull Island?
I have not, no, but I'm interested in seeing it, but I've not heard good things.
It's not good, though, to be fair.
So what are you talking about?
It was well directed. It was just...
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway.
Fine.
But Akira is a really great movie.
Akira is fantastic, yes.
Yeah. I do have to admit, with this particular crowd, I didn't expect that to be a controversial choice.
No, of course not. Yeah.
It's a very, like I mentioned earlier as well, it is an anime for people who don't like anime.
Yeah.
It's even if people...
I actually think there's enough weird imagery in it and, fun, like I said, fundamentally Japanese themes that this wouldn't be my first anime to show to people who aren't into it.
Well, no, but
it was the first one I watched.
Yeah?
It was the first one I watched. I think I was 9 when I first saw Akira.
Oh, wow.
So that would have been about 11 years ago, and I only rewatched it last week for the second time, and yeah, it was about as good as I remember it being, but I definitely understood it more, and it scared me less this time.
It's a very mature film, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
It's quite horrible.
Mine was Street Fighter 2. That's the first anime I ever saw.
Wow.
Yeah,
I'm
terrible.
feeling terribly guilty. I haven't seen Akira, and I actually own it on DVD, and I've just never got round to putting it into the DVD player. So I will be, though.
Yeah,
absolutely, I will be.
So,
but I think,
it's a good 2 hours.
Yeah, it's quite a tough watch in places.
Oh god, yeah.
It's quite alienating as well.
It's got its ending also calls to mind body horror imagery as well.
Yeah,
but, it's got flying chairs and giant evil teddy bears in it as well.
You can't go wrong with an evil teddy bear.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a free weekend and lots of knitting to do, so that sounds perfect.
Yeah. We're watching Akira.
Elspeth.
Okay, so I was born in 1987, almost 30 years ago, which is, anyway.
This is not the time for an existential panic.
So I should make an admission before I start this. I didn't actually bother looking at a list of films from 1987 before I picked my film, because the film I've chosen is in my top 10 films of all time. Admittedly, the top 10 changes, but this one tends to stay between the 5 and 1. It's The Princess Bride.
Yes.
I love it so much. So it's Rob Reiner. Reiner?
I don't know. I've always said Reiner.
Same here, but I bet it's not.
Directed by Rob Reiner, who is infamous for Spinal Tap and all of his other brilliant mockumentaries.
Best in Show.
And he, it was based on a book by William Goldman. I don't know if you've read the book, but you absolutely have to read the book because it's just brilliant like the film. Anyway, and William Goldman also wrote Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and a couple of others as well. He's got a really good sense of humour about him. Film stars Carrie Elwes and Robin Wright as Buttercup and Westley, 2 lovers in this romantic fairy tale place, who get horribly separated. He dies and she gets kidnapped, and it's a romance. And it's just... So I don't even know how to put into words how much fun this film is. I was watching... So I went to sit down and rewatch it, having seen it a billion times before, and got completely distracted by the DVD extras, which included an interview with Rob Reiner, and in which he called it a celebration of storytelling. And I think that really is what it is, because it's got everything in it. It's got romance, it's got adventure, it's got swashbuckling, it's got...
Andre the Giant.
It's got Andre the Giant in it. It's got Billy Crystal being some weird version of Billy Crystal.
Yeah.
It's got comedy, it's got language play, it's got electric eels. I don't know what more you need in a movie, to be honest with you.
And
it would be inconceivable that it should be anything else.
It's got the most wonderful framing narrative as well of Peter Falk coming to reading the book, the story that we're seeing unfold to
Grandpa Columbo telling a bedtime story
to Fred Savage. But the wonderful thing, so one of my favourite things about the film is the way that it uses storytelling narratives. So it is this grandfather talking to his child while his child is sick and really just wants to be playing computer games, which I think is something that we can all relate to.
Yeah.
And in telling the story, he keeps interrupting himself with, "Oh, you looked really worried, so I should just tell you she doesn't die at this time. It's fine." And the thing that's wonderful about the book, which I've only read in the last couple of years, is that it does that as well. So it's set up as a translation of a old story, and the editor keeps adding bits in, like, "Don't worry, it's fine. She doesn't die at this time." Or, "You should know that this was perfectly normal in these situations." Which just makes it so much more... It feels like you're being told a story rather than...
It's true.
Yeah.
By Peter Falk.
He's
the best person to ever hear a story from.
It's just... And Christopher Guest is in it.
Yes.
And there are massive rats in it. And there's so much, and I don't know where to stop.
And because it is kind of an ensemble cast as well, and every small role is, so memorable. Like you said, Billy Crystal, there's Mandy Patinkin, Wallace Shawn, and what's his name? Chris Sarandon.
Prince
Mel Brooks as well. No, Mel Smith.
Mel Smith's in it.
Yes.
It's just... And it's so endlessly quotable.
Yes,
endlessly quotable.
It is. It is.
As you wish.
My name is Amigo Montoya.
You killed my father. Prepare to die.
Inconceivable. You keep using that word. I don't think
you know what it means.
It really is wonderful.
In the DVD, I got really excited about the DVD extras because I hadn't realised that it was shot in Sheffield, which makes me want to go to Sheffield like tomorrow and find where it was shot.
Right.
And they had this whole thing with Andre the Giant about how the book was written with Andre the Giant in mind for that character, and then they cast him in it. Yeah.
Oh wow!
And
bit of a Hagrid situation.
Exactly, and they said they wanted Carrie Elwes's character Wesley to be kind of that Errol Flynn, Douglas Fairbanks Jr. person, and so him and Mandy
Patinkin.
Patinkin.
I thought it was Patinkin.
Indigo Montoya.
Indigo
Montoya. The two of them learnt sword fighting from scratch. They'd never done it before. And they kept watching all of the best Douglas Fairbanks and the best Errol Flynn, getting the teacher to teach them how to do that until they could do it.
Yeah.
And that's
It's awesome.
It's worth it because it's such a brilliant fight sequence.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Even on just a technical level.
From somebody that doesn't really enjoy sword fighting sequences, it's beautiful to watch. And the wordplay and just the way that they interact with each other is...
And we've not even spoken about the music by Mark Knopfler.
Of course.
From the Dire Straits. So it's immediately very, very 80s.
It is. And honestly, I'm yet to meet a person that's seen it and doesn't like it. And
It's
I know
true.
that's a massive, you shouldn't say that about a film. But I haven't met one.
It's true. It's like it's just one of those films that is just so universally beloved. It's just it's a very, very difficult film to take issue with in any way because it's just there are no sharp edges to it. I mean, it's sharp in terms of the humor, but there are no. There's nothing about it that's mean-spirited or nasty, really. It's just sweet and lovely. It's wholesome. It's a very, very...
But not in a way that's boring
No,
or
not at all.
dull.
It's not like Milton
cheesy or anything.
No.
It's like utterly wholesome and charming and unchallenging fare, but in the best possible way.
Exactly, or just completely win you over. And it's like... I mean, if you haven't seen The Princess Bride, what are you doing? Go see The Princess
Sort
Bride.
it out.
But I guess if you haven't seen it, it's only real contemporary, I think, that made me feel sort of the same way and is similar sort of stylistically, I guess, as Stardust. Matthew
Yeah.
Vaughn.
Yeah, I
And
suppose-
it's in that vein, I guess, in that sort of a fairy tale, kind of episodic and kind of just fantastical and sweet and just good natured.
Definitely.
It's an interesting comparison. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, I say this as someone who loves Neil Gaiman and everything he does. Even I think Stardust is massively the lesser than The Princess Bride.
Absolutely, 100%. But I mean, I'm just, it's in terms of films that are similar to it, it's so rare and singular. I think to find a film like that it's just nice. I hate using that word to describe anything
Because it sounds like faint praise, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
It's
It's the best possible version of anything you could want from something like it, if that makes sense. Like it's the kind of feel that Pirates of the Caribbean wishes it was. The first one,
Well,
The first one came close.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Especially, it came out in a period where there were lots of other family fantasy movies coming out, like Legend, Labyrinth, Never-Ending Stories.
Yes.
There was a big glut of them coming out at the same time.
That's
and
true.
The Princess Bride is the best out of all.
Because I don't think it's just a family film. I think it's one of those films that is suitable for family watching. Like, I lent it to my friend and she watched it with her daughters, who instantly fell in love with Wesley, because how can you not? But it's not just for her. Like, it's not just a family film. I feel like I could introduce that to friends that hadn't seen it, although I don't think I'm friends with anyone that hasn't seen it, for obvious reasons.
You don't need people like that in your life.
Absolutely not. But I feel like it's not just the family market. It manages to cover everything in a way that's just so unique to it.
Yeah. But what I mean is, I meant family movies, as in The Princess
you're
Bride,
right.
as opposed to I don't know.
Predator and other films that came out that year.
Yeah.
Excellent.
It's fantastic.
One thing I want to say is Prince Humperdinck gets the single best chat up line, which is, "I hope you would consider me a suitable alternative to suicide."
Oh, that is a good line.
That is a very good line.
Yeah.
It is
God,
really
this has just evolved into us sucking off the
gushing
Princess Bride.
about the Princess Bride.
Rob Reiner is having an orgasm right now.
It's one of those that is great that you really don't think about as much as you should. Like after this conversation, I'm just like, oh shit, I need to see The Princess Bride again.
Yeah.
Everybody that hasn't watched it, what the
Just
fuck?
do
Go
it.
out and watch it.
Do.
And everybody that has watched it, go read the book, because the book is so brilliantly done as well.
I'll look out for the book
Yeah.
now that you've said that.
Did anyone read the book Carrie Elwes
Carrie
wrote?
Elwes wrote. No, I have it, but I haven't read it yet.
Was it about the Princess Bride?
Yeah, it's called As You Wish, and it's his.
Oh.
Yeah, it's him talking about his working on it. So I am going to have to read that one. But
Excellent.
Awesome.
Well, this has been our show.
As yet untitled show.
Where say that these people listening would like to follow you on the various social medias, or listen to you on other shows, or read your writings. Where can they find you?
So I am at Elspeth87 on Twitter. I'm Elspeth87 on Instagram as well, if you want to look at my knitting. I don't know why you would. That's basically what's on there. And I also have a blog called Women of Tech, and another one called cinemescope.com.
Jim?
Liam then. Liam.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at SalsaShark1988. Before anyone asks, yes, that is a Kevin Smith reference.
Oh yes, Salsa Shark. That's nice.
Yeah, I do have a blog called The Salsa Shark on Blogspot, but I very rarely update. I'm hoping to.
Nice plug.
Yeah, I'm hoping to fix that when I have free time.
Visit my empty blog.
Don't visit it as shit. But
I'm terrible at marketing. All right.
And as for me, if you want to follow me, you can't. Basically, I don't have Twitter. I'll work on. I'll get it. I guess I need to now, don't I? I need to plug something.
no choice.
Watch this space for me, Jim Chapman. Yeah.
I'm in my house most evenings. I don't have much of a life. No, I'm on Twitter at Just An Idea without a T. That is actually a reference to Trainspotting.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. I don't really write very much anymore. But I've been Sam Chapter, and I've been joined by
Elspeth Hind,
Jim Chapman,
Liam McLeod.
Fucking bye!
Fucking bye!